But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is the professionals, it is live, we are back live, and great to have Stu and Mitch here after rather upsetting weekend, I think, for most people, most Newcastle United fans. I think we all thought we were going to get something out of that game at the weekend, and unfortunately we didn't. And yeah, I've just kept off social media. I've been away this weekend anyway, but kept off social media, so I haven't seen the absolute fallout. But there has been one, Stu, as always, 3 defeats. We knew it was going to be tough, mate. We knew Aston Villa, Man City, Liverpool, Brighton was going to be a tough start of the season. I've got to be honest, I thought we'd get more points. We haven't, but I'm not overreacting. I'm not, upset. There's things which clearly need to be addressed, need to be looked at. Our finishing for me on Saturday was poor. Had Newcastle had their shooting boots on, could have been 3-3, 4-4. It was one of those days where Newcastle had 16 shots, I think something like 9 on target, and ultimately just couldn't hit a barn door until Wilson got what turned out to be a consolation. But you can't sugarcoat something at times, and there was a few bad performances. Pope looked a bit dodgy for me. Out of the team itself, there was 1 or 2 other players who, for me personally, don't seem to be working well together, and that's where Eddie Howe earns his wages, and that's where he's got to get things right. So we'll start with you, Stu. Well, we're going to anyway. While Mitch sorts his technical issues out, give us your take on the weekend's events.
If we're talking about the Brighton game, we may as well get the elephant out. Lethargic, disappointing, lackluster, frustrating, underwhelming, disjointed, substandard, abject. Yep, it was all of those. But that's because we've set ourselves ridiculously high standards under anyway. And when we throw it in the odd poor performance, it does hurt. But the something I mentioned about Bruno last week, we have to remember that form is temporary and class is permanent. And we are levels above where we've been for probably 2 decades. But taking that into consideration, the cohesion, the commitment, the energy, the intensity, that's been our trademarks. All of those were missing. And it was an unusual performance. And for the second away game in a row, Isak, to me, was left isolated. Our midfield was static. And the defence looked like they played with fear. And to me, this leads to confidence being drained, which leads to a defeat. But will Eddie Howe be hurting? Absolutely he will. Will he fix it? Certainly he'll fix it. But I've seen people get criticised individually and stuff like that, but not one player can hold their head up and say, yeah, I had a good game that day. And it probably hurt more because we have been so good. We've all seen performances like that over the years, and regularly like that, not just occasionally. But one thing I think everyone needs to consider is our rise since the takeover has been meteoric, hasn't it? It's just been on the up and up and up. So at some stage it would level out or plateau. And that's probably where we're at the minute. There's a combination of things we could probably speak for hours, possibly days, about what can be done, what has changed, etc., etc. But the way I look at it is last season was easily in the top 5 of supporting Newcastle United in my lifetime. And this season has the potential to be even better. And I've looked through all the seasons, all the years that I've been supporting Newcastle. And my favourite one, if you recall, when we had to mention on our favourite seasons, and that was it wasn't the 92-93 promotion season under Keegan. It was the first year in the Premier League when we went into bloody noses. Well, from that start of that season, we only won one of the first 6 games, yet we still finished 3rd. And we've played, I think, 4 of the top 6 from last season. And we were one of the teams. It's only Man United that we hadn't played. And I think if we'd played them, we would have had more points on the board anyway. So we can't dance around it and say, oh, they played well, we could have got a draw. We didn't deserve a draw. We got what we deserved, and that was nothing. But hopefully this will be the wake-up call that's needed. And I just think they were stuck in two minds after what happened to them against Liverpool the previous game. And that was, we've been caught out. So we know how Brighton will play quick. We need to sit back a bit more and soak them up. And they're caught in two minds. And I can't go forward because I'll get caught out. But the one thing that really frustrated me was kept shouting at the TV, because obviously they can hear me when I'm shouting at the TV in Bahrain. It was just the marking. It was non-existent. Now, going back to school, even when you're playing football there, if you're defensive, in the defensive position, you stand behind the man, so you know exactly where they are. That's what man marking is. But all too often, the midfield were like just drifting in front and not knowing where they were. We made it easier for Brighton, but being positive from it, we've got a lot to learn from there, and learn we will. And I think you have to hit rock bottom before you start climbing up again. And I think that, to me, could be our best result of the season because of what could come from it. And I fully expect a response, and I think we will have a positive response. And I still think we're going to have a fantastic season.
Okay, Mitch, Stu's accentuating the positives there. Still thinks we're going to have a good season. Stuart Pearce on TalkSport this morning, who backed Newcastle to win the league at the start of the season, has reiterated he thinks Newcastle will win the league, much to the hilarity of Simon Jordan, who said, "You're not just doing that for bloody mindedness." He went, "No, I'm serious." He says it was always going to be hard. Newcastle had the hardest start in the Premier League. I think they'll bounce back. So Stuart Pearce is keen and still believes Newcastle will win the league. But from your perspective, you know, give us your views on the weekend's game first.
I think I'm glad I've had a couple of days to ruminate on it all. And I'm glad I've had a couple of days just to step back and think it through. I was royally pissed off on Saturday night, truth be told, and quite angry. Because I think we did some basic things really poorly. And I'm quite sure if I can see that in a bar in Dubai, I'm quite sure he can see that at the touchline. And I think while we all chip in about what we think we should and shouldn't be doing and what positions people should and shouldn't be playing in, the man that matters is Eddie Howe. And I'm quite sure he saw plenty of things that he didn't enjoy and didn't like and didn't get from the players what he wanted. I think at times some of the marking, in particular in the second half, was appalling. People talking about should we have strengthened at right side centre back. It would seem that without Botman there, putting Byrne into the left-sided centre back where you think you would be more comfortable, he didn't look terribly comfortable to me. And so, you know, and nor did he against Liverpool for that matter. If we want to be really pedantic, when he was shifted inside. So I think but I don't want to be seen to be singling players out. I think we win as a group and we lose as a group. And I think everybody will be putting everything into making sure that that's put right. What would I have been happy with this start? 7 points I would have been happy with. So we've got 3. So a 4 off, which isn't exactly the end of the world. Not at this stage of the season. Not with the run of games that we've got coming up. I think it's a nice, fair reminder in all these games how fine margins are in the Premier League. And if you don't bring your shooting boots and don't take the chances presented to you and let a team get ahead, Brighton are no mugs, but equally they've got weaknesses that we just fail to exploit. That the previous weekend, to be fair to West Ham, they did very, very well. People were talking about how West Ham went there and won, but you look at the stats of the game, they only had 22% of possession. They scored with nearly every shot they had. And so, you know, over a season, you're not going to get many games like that realistically. I think we should have handled Brighton better. We should have handled ourselves better. That's clear for everyone to see. But going into a funk and a spiral about it and starting to point fingers at individual players isn't really helpful. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what any of us think. The only person that matters is Eddie Howe.
Yeah, you're right, 100%. That you know, his opinion is paramount, and that's, you know, that's the way it is. Okay, we're not going to dwell on the game too much. Lots of people got questions coming in. I do want to stick a photo up, Stu, which you sent me over the weekend. Who's this young chap?
That's young Henry. I'm a very good friend of his father, who's a fantastic bloke. Henry was 11 last week, and there's his Trippier scarf and his Newcastle shirt. So he likes watching the professionals as well. Probably one of our youngest supporters. So happy birthday, young man, and I hope you have a great day. And just by coincidence, today's my son's birthday as well. So I've already spoken to him, but he's out on the drink. So I don't know where that's from.
Well, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Well, you had a great day. Loving the scarf, loving the strip, and have a great day. And happy birthday to your son as well, Stu. But he probably won't even remember that we said happy birthday to him. I'm sure you want to pass on your best as well, Mitch.
Absolutely. And I know his dad myself as well, and he's a good top man. And so anything that we do to put a smile on that family's face, we will do, mate.
Good stuff. Excellent. Have a great day. I hope you've been spoilt, and thank you for tuning into the professionals every week. Okay, lots of questions coming in. Let's get into them and see what people have got to say. Lots of people talking about the midfield. Craig says, do any of you think that Bruno's dip in form has been since the news that he hasn't signed a new contract yet? I mean, we don't know the ins and outs of that. I'll combine that, Stu, with the Stu's off now. Must be problems across in the. Are you there, Stu? Can we hear you? There's no sound. No, we can't hear you, mate. No sound.
This is what happened to me when I disappeared before. I could see you, but no sound.
Ah, right. Okay. So we could see him, but we couldn't hear him. All right. Well, Mitch, I'll start with you. The Bruno thing, you were shaking your head there, but we've also people saying, Stephen House says, is it the Gerrard and Lampard dilemma with Tonali and Bruno playing in the same midfield?
We've had 4 games.
Maybe too similar. I guess but everybody's going to have an opinion about it. I've told you what mine was over the last couple of weeks. I do think Tonali coming in is going to cause it's not cause an issue, because that makes it sound as if it's not solvable. What I mean is they've got to play together. They've got to learn to play together. Go on, give it. Is it like Gerrard and Lampard?
4 games in.
Yeah.
Gerrard and Lampard dilemma was a totally different one. That's about their egos. And which one wanted to be Billy Big Bollocks and which one wanted to have all the plaudits. I still cannot fathom to this day how an England manager couldn't take that group of players and make them all cohesive and work together and win something with the group of players that you had available. I'm not a believer that you cannot get players that can't play together. If they're good players, if they're top-class players, if they're world players, they can do anything. If they know what the instructions are and they stick to the plan from a manager. Now, do I think Tonali and Bruno can't play together? Absolutely not. I think they can. But again, this one's down to how Eddie wants things to work. The targeted players to improve a range of different things and give a range of options in midfield and up front. And it might just be a case of finding the right combinations at the moment. But over time, I think we'll see a difference. They've literally had 4 games together. And to write everything off after that is short-termism at best. We've got to keep hold of the bigger picture. Now, where does Willock fit into this when he's fit? Where does and these should all be fantastic problems. We shouldn't be making them problems. You know what I think it is at the minute? There's a whole degree of everybody's waiting for things to go tits up again, and that feeling is still there for a lot of people. And it's been exaggerated by the ticketing farce that's going on at the minute and the little groups of infighting that's going on between our own fans again. We are experts at shooting ourselves in the foot as a fan base. We are amazing at turning the guns inward and winding each other up to the point where people fall out over the most ridiculous things. Herding the cats. Everybody wants the same thing, but they all want to do it their own way and claim their own little bit of kudos for the way they did it. There's all of that going on as well. And I think it's now coming out in things like this. And what we shouldn't be doing is turning it on the team, in my opinion, in the way that we can do on social media. I think we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks, you know. And I think it's all of these frustrations are coming out in different ways at the minute. Like we're a powder keg ready to go. What I do predict is that once we put a string of wins together, it'll all feel like Rosie in the garden again. And everybody will start pulling in the same direction and it'll be fine. But it's Eddie's problem to solve. He's got the players that we are led to believe he was happy to have, that he wanted. He got the main one in Tonali in early, which again is what he wanted. And again, people are saying about why aren't we going straight to Hall at left back? Because he's never done that with a player. He's never brought a player in and dropped them straight in. He's had 3 or 4 weeks on the bench and been brought in and brought up to speed. He's done that with nearly everybody we've signed. So don't expect to see Hall chucked in at left back straight away. I'll be amazed if he's even in the side against Brentford, is what I'll say. But, you know, I'm here to be proved wrong. I'm not the manager. I'm not seeing them in training every day. But I think we need to just really try and keep a heart a little bit and not go off the deep end. I understand where all these feelings come from, this feeling that we're going to do a Newcastle thing and fuck it all up. And I get it. I do get it. I've had, you know, my blood pressure is the way it is for years of supporting Newcastle United, you bugger. You know, so I get why it's hard to change a habit of a lifetime. But the way we're thinking is still small time. Would you see fans of Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United to a lesser degree at the minute? I think they have their own issues. But certainly, do we see Arsenal fans, Liverpool fans react the way that we seem to react at the minute? And I don't think we do. And I think we have to learn that winning mindset and sort of try and just take each game as it comes now. Because I think once we do get back on a roll, it'll have a totally different vibe.
Interesting, Stu. I mean, obviously the question was more about the midfield. You know, a lot of people in the chat saying that they're a bit concerned about the midfield. You know, Longstaff should be playing. Maybe, you know, Bruno and Tonali can't play together. Maybe one of them should be. You know, Tonali should be playing in the number 6 role. Mitch's point, of course, is we're only 4 games in. Give them time. You know, it's something that I do feel is the reason that we are slightly imbalanced. I've said it since the start of the season, since the Man City game. Always hard to judge against them, but Liverpool certainly, and now Brighton. I do feel it's just a simple case of them playing together. I'm not pressing the panic button. I think Newcastle will be fine. We showed what we can play like as a team against Aston Villa, but there's something clearly, you know, needs to be changed. And we know that when you get into a run of winning games and doing well, you know, the momentum carries you. When you get into a rut where you lose games, it's just the same. You know what I mean? You've got to find a way to get out of it. So, what's your thoughts on this midfield conundrum that everyone's going on about?
Well, I don't know when I start reading about this, because if I try to do things pretty simple, but you see things like number 6 and number 8, and now maybe it's my lack of understanding or my age, but when they talk about number 6, I think they're talking about a defensive midfielder. Is that right? A holding midfielder?
Yes.
Right. So if we're playing 4-4-2 and you've got like a diamond shape in the middle, then you have a number 6. That would then make a number 8 what, a right midfielder or centre midfielder or left midfielder? And this is the bit what I'm confused about. I know I touched on it a couple of weeks back about the Scholes, Gerrard and Lampard that Mitch just mentioned there. But the word that we used was egos. These don't have egos. They're all desperate to succeed, maybe trying too hard. And for me, they just got to work it out. They will work it out. The quality players. Now, if we go through not just the midfielders, because everyone, well, not everyone, nearly everyone has come in for criticism for over the first 4 games. Miggy's got no right foot. That's a fact. So he becomes too predictable. Bruno looks frustrated, and in my opinion, he looks, when he first come in last season, he was very self-assured. But I don't buy into this that it's because of his contract. Do you really think he's on the pitch getting the ball thinking, well, I haven't signed this contract yet, so I won't pass it where I should pass it? Of course he doesn't. The contract is behind the scenes, that's for his agent to sort out, etc., etc. Joe Linton's off the pace. Bird and Target, they've been getting criticised, but they've been picked to do their job because we don't have anyone better readily available at the moment. Now, in their defence, pardon any pun there, they were phase 1 Windows signings. They had a remit when they signed to help us stay up and then get established the following season. And they've done that. And we need to say, job done. Thank you very much for the areas. Now, is it their fault that we didn't sign a ready left back? I don't want to mention any names, but the phrase I keep using is, get buying players for the here and now. Now, Eddie Hall might prove to me that for this season, but he hasn't had a chance yet, but we'll have to hold ourselves back. Tonali's bedding in. He's a quality player. He's a quality player, and he will get used to the pace. But how is he going to get used to the pace unless they play him? As I said earlier, Steve, we've played probably the 4 or 5 hardest games we could have played to start the season. And then we've got the Champions League coming up. Then we've got Man City, the Cup, and all of this. They'll only get better. The team will only get better. If they're at rock bottom now, we will only get better. Pope, now he's getting criticised because he panics with his feet. That's not new. He's been like that since Burnley, never mind since he signed for us. Great shot stopper, great with crosses and everything else, pardon the pun with Pope and crosses, but he's exceptional at them. And he commands his box and he talks to his defence. But is he good on the don't give him it. Don't give him it. Pass it to him when he has someone run at him, otherwise he will panic and force a mistake. Isak's had no supply. Trippier hasn't reached his highest standards yet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 8 players we've mentioned already. The problem I see arising, and this is the problem, the squad is much better than it's ever been for a long, long time. But what Eddie's mantra has always been, Eddie Howe's mantra has always been, is you play well, you stay in the team. So you can get away with that last season when there was a core of 11 to 14 players that were capable of being in the team, and the rest were just happy to be part of the raid that we were on. Now there's about 19, 20 players that are capable of being starting 11. So if you're one of the ones not in the starting 11 and you see these players not performing, you've got every right to be banging the manager's door and saying, hang on, you said if I play well, I get in the team. Or if they don't, then I should get in the team. Because there is much of a muchness. There's not many players that you'd say, right, they're on the team sheet regardless. And that's where you have to start utilising the squad. And this is where, in my opinion, Eddie Howe has to become more ruthless. Otherwise, it'll create apathy. Because you'll have players saying, well, what's the point of me even trying and training? I'm not going to get a game even when they're playing bad. So that's when resentment can sit in. And this is where the man management that the coach and staff have, and they've excelled at from the day they've walked in the door. They've excelled at man management and creating a team spirit. This is where they learn their crust now. The players haven't become bad. The formation works. It's tried and tested. We know that we have quality players, and yes, they have underachieved, and yes, we praise them to the hilt when they've overachieved. But football's not like real life. We have to then start supporting them more when they need it. I'm sure we've discussed before, it's like the Gaza scenario. Everyone can be his best friend when he's on top of the world, but when he isn't, when he needs help, people walked away from him. We as supporters, as we always have done, need to stand by this team. And the old saying, win or lose, we're on the booze and stuff like that. That's what we need. But over the last few days, I've seen not even calls. I've seen demands for Longstaff should be starting. Anderson should be starting. Dubravka should be starting. Barnes should be starting. Hall should be starting. Murphy should be starting. Livramento should be starting. Who else should be in this team now? So all of a sudden, right, who would you... If you started picking...
Eddie Howe should be starting.
No, well, everyone. But if you think of all the... I was at the Villa game. We're talking not even a month ago, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. If you asked all these supporters who are now experts and know more than Eddie Howe, how this person should be out and that person should be in, how many would have picked those players that they're now touting at the start of the season? Now, in the last few games, Willock's all of a sudden become irreplaceable. He was getting dogs abuse last season for most of the games he played. But now he should be starting. So if Willock should be starting, and Anderson should be starting, and Longstaff should be starting, that means Bruno shouldn't start. It means Tonali shouldn't start and Joe Linton shouldn't start. You know, we can only pick 11 players. And yes, I think the vast majority of level-headed fans have looked in no areas where we should improve. And in my position, it's the left side of defence and the front right of attack. That's where we need. The three midfielders need to gel. If someone's not fit, if we're talking about Joe Linton, and he's not fit, he declares himself fit, that's weak for me. He should have been told, sorry, you're not fit. We'll get you in, go and rest, get your Brazil thing out the way, and come back raring to go. We've got a big game against Brentford. We've got a huge game against AC Milan, and we have substitutes or we have reserves in place who are more than capable of starting. And that's what I would have liked to see. Anderson coming in for Joe Linton there and say, right, now's your chance. The shirt shows now. Go and play like you don't want to lose it. So if there's changes to come, then we'll see them at the Brentford game. But we need to take a step back and start thinking, right, 1 minute someone's a hero, the next minute's a zero. They don't become bad overnight. And granted, the midfield were overrun, only because our midfield didn't run. That's why we're overrun on Saturday night. They're not better than us. We proved that last season over the course of 38 games. We are better than Brighton. They beat us on the day. Aston Villa beat us comfortably last season on the day. Tottenham did the season before. But we're above them all. Not after 4 games or not, but by the end of the season, we'll be above Brighton. We'll be above Villa. And we'll be above Tottenham. Because we have a squad now that, to me, this result will be a kick in the bollocks that they need. And it'll galvanise them. And they'll go away hurting. And they'll come back knowing the feeling they've just had, and they won't want it again. And I think they'll use that, and they'll come out fighting, they'll come out swinging, and they'll come out with passion that has been missing. So whether I'm being ultra positive or over positive or just being positive, I really do expect us to have a fantastic September, a brilliant October, and we'll climb that table very, very quickly.
Okay, Paul Charlton asked a question. He said, question for the lad. Did we strengthen then in the correct areas in the window, or have we missed a trick? And I think a lot of people are pointing towards the back four, saying that, we are still a little bit short there. Botman injured, so could miss the Brentford game. Nothing confirmed. Let's hope he has a good couple of weeks rest and manages to pull himself round. But, Dan Burn going in alongside Fabian Schär, for me, Pope was probably to blame for one of the goals. Tonali switched off and, the kid hit the ball and it went in. I think Jennings had a go at him on Match of the Day. Fabian Schär sticking a leg out. I mean, when things go against you, they go against you, and it's a collective responsibility. It's not just one person. We shouldn't be highlighting one person. It's the team, as you said, Mitch, didn't have a very good time. But the question Paul's asking is, did we strengthen in the correct area? Should we have gone for a centre half? Because I think a lot of people are saying maybe we should get one. And I know you and Stu both on this show said Lascelles.
But not just that. I mean, you've also got to now see people are saying, "Oh well, Botman could be out, and we don't like the look of Burn at centre back." But there was people who were crying for Burn to be at centre back. Mm-hmm. A lot of the same people didn't want Burn to be at left back. They wanted to be in the centre, and so I think we were well covered with experience on the right side of centre defence and on the left-hand side of centre defence. We've got 2 right footers, we've got 2 left footers. And there's so many other places that we could have used the money and needed to use the money. Dummett's been kept around. He can play centre-back or left full-back. I know he's not everybody's his biggest fan, but he's there. And he's there because Eddie wants him there. And so if Eddie sticks him in a side, you've got to trust that he thinks he's going to do a job for it. People forget that with the FFP resources that were playing from behind the 8 ball, we only had so much to go around, and they had to prioritise where it was put. And I still think if you were to go to Eddie and say, "Are you happy with what you did during the window? would you change anything? I think you'd say no. I think you'd say no. I don't see anything from anybody in the club, from the playing and managerial side, that looks like they were uncomfortable with the business that was done during the window. And I think it's just a matter of time. They're getting the right combination of players who are on form and who click together. Do I think you'll make changes for Brentford? Yeah, I do. But again, I'm not the one on the touchline at the training ground every day and seeing what was what. So I think we've played the FFP game very, very well. And we know we have limitations in certain areas. But I don't for a minute think that anybody at the club would think centre-back was one of them. Also, I don't think in the games against Liverpool and Brighton, Dan Burn can look at himself and say he's had a fantastic display as a centre-back versus when he's been in the team at left-back, because I just don't think he has. I don't think he's hit the same heights there. And yet that's the position everybody was saying that's where he should be. But what do we know? You know, we're just gobshites on YouTube, really, aren't we? At the end of the day. And we'll look to share opinions, and that's what the game's all about. And so as frustrating as it is, I don't think anybody in the club would be saying they've missed a trick during the window.
No, Eddie often says, Stu, you know, he's asked, would you say you've had a good window? And he says, well, I can't tell you. I can't tell you until, you know, a couple of years down the line, when I look back and see what those players have done. He said, because ultimately, you know, he says, I watch the news and I hear people say, oh, he's a great player. That's a good signing, when they haven't even seen him kick a ball. So he said, I always reserve judgment. He said, you know, I mean, we talked on here. You were hopeful that Tierney was going to come to Newcastle. We signed Hall. People questioning why Hall's not playing. You know, and as Mitch says, people clamouring for Burn to be centre half, and then you know he goes into centre half, and they're saying he shouldn't be anywhere near the place. I mean, it's typical social media banter. But I mean, did we have a good window? Should we be looking for a centre half? Are you in agreement with Mitch?
Well, first of all, I can't say anyhow, but he's asked the questions here. No, I think the signings we've got aren't any good. I wouldn't have got them. Whoever he's signed sitting Livermento's going, what's he just said? And Hall, of course he's happy with them, but the answer he's given is actually factually correct. Time will tell, you know. But however, had we signed Tierney, it's not just I wanted him. I think he wanted him. I think Eddie Howe wanted him. You know, but we understand the reasons it didn't happen. But same with Maddison. Now, had we signed Tierney and Maddison, as I believe Eddie Howe wanted us to, and he was asked the same question, have we had a good window? I think he would have replied, yes, excellent. But he doesn't sign the players. That's not his remit. His remit is to make suggestions and say, this is the area I would like to improve, etc., etc. Then someone else goes and does it. Dan Ashworth. They've all got bosses to impress, and they have to justify their decisions. Now, out of that puts in the real world, middle management is the hardest job to have. So both Dan Ashworth and Eddie Howe fall under that category. Eddie Howe has to get the best out of the squad he's got. But in Eddie Howe's managerial career, he's never had a squad better than what he's got in front of him right now. What he's got to do is make sure there's an 11 capable of performing on a weekly basis, knowing that others are breathing down the neck and more than capable of taking the places. And that's the trick he's got now. He's man management, which, as I said earlier, he's excelled at. So football is a fickle industry. We know that. And I think the two key words we kept using last week were fine margins. But there was no fine margins about the Brighton game, was it? We were thoroughly and well-deservedly beat. So could Eddie Howe have made changes earlier? Could he have took people over half-time? Could he have went all Mourinho and took someone after 20 minutes and says, you're not fit? Yeah, he could have. But then you have the repercussions after that. And again, sorry to hark back to it, but we have made that statement that we're building a skyscraper. You know, we've got the foundation solid. But the one thing I relate to Newcastle United now is like being here in the Middle East. There will be dark days. There will be rainy days. There will be windy days, but the majority of the time it's bright sunshine. And that's what's supporting Newcastle's like now, not the other way around, where you get the odd day of sunshine. So can we improve? Yes. Will we improve? Yes. Is he happy with the window? I don't think so. I think he would rather have had starters. He's mentioned it. He referenced it a couple of times in press conferences near the end of the season. He was looking for quality additions to come straight into the team, not someone or quality additions that could benefit the team 2 or 3 years down the line. He's a football manager. Not all football managers get the benefit of 2 or 3 years good grace, you know. And we know that the Saudis are winners. They're not going to say, well, just keep pottering about for 4 to 5 years, and you can sign who you want and play how you want. They have to see improvement. Now, whether that means we finish above 4th or not, that doesn't necessarily mean improvement. It just shows that the squad is getting better. Yes, other teams have improved more, but they've got less financial constraint than we have. So all these things get taken into account. But I'm waffling a bit, but is Eddie Howe happy with his window? The only answer you can give that is at the end of the season. If Livramento ends up being the best right wing back we've ever had, or replaces Biggie, or Hall comes in and he gets England caps and stuff like that. So we don't know how good the window is until it. Ginali to me is an exceptional player, and as long as they learn not to play in a line, left midfield, centre midfield, right midfield, in a straight line where people can run through them, then they'll crack it.
Okay.
You know what it is? In the summer of 1984, I was delighted with our transfer business. With, you know, in top flight, with St. Thorne and Besant and Robertson and Hendry. 88, sorry, yes. Fantastic set of signings, wonderful. We're getting places. By the end of the first game, we'd been thumped 4-0 at Everton, and I think by 6 games, we'd conceded 20 and scored 4. You cannot measure a good set of signings just on a handful of games. You've got to look at it over a longer period of time sometimes. And it's not like that window where, or there wasn't windows then. It wasn't like that time where you think, hey, we've really invested well here, and it was obvious we hadn't. I think we've just got to sit tight and let Eddie do his thing and get everybody bedded in. We've got an interesting 2-week period now where we can sort of gather ourselves together, and hopefully we'll get everybody back from international duty in one piece. And we can just then see where we go from Brentford.
Yeah, going to be interesting. But I hate these international breaks at the best of times, but I certainly hate them when Newcastle United lose, and we've got a stew in this for the next 2 weeks. But never mind, we'll have to get on with it, and I'm sure things will change very, very shortly. Now, with these longer shows, we do like to chuck in something, and we did have a regular feature, which we didn't seem to get many people submitting to, but now I've had a few people sending in asking if we're going to do this section again. So I'm going to bring it back in. Don't worry, it's not Mike Tyson's Tops.
That's right.
All right, my first 2 match, something we used to do on Geordie's Here, Geordie's There, but I thought I'd add it to this show because we do an hour and a half. Toon Boy said, my very first game was away to Walsall in the Cup. We lived in Stoke at the time. I was 9. I think my dad said, I'm taking it to see the great Super Mac. Well, it was pouring down, cloudiest pitch ever. We lost, and Mac was rubbish. It got better after that, though, thank God. Toon Boy, I love that. And I did get this one a while back, and this is what made me think of this. This was from Simon Mulholland. And you can tell it was a while ago now, but I just thought I'd share this because there's some nice photos. This was for the Geordie's Here, Geordie's There, my first Toon game. And he says, the first is me preparing to climb Mount Fuji, followed by a Japanese TV crew. And then my soon-to-be Rwandan wife on her first visit to St. James's Park. And the last is Cousin Jimmy wearing his Toon shirt that I have seen in Rwanda. So thanks for that, Simon. Sorry it took about a year to get it on, but I did lose it and it's just reappeared somehow in one of my files. But if you've got your recollection, give us a tweet, send us, let us know what the first game was. Give us a bit of detail. Don't just say my first Toon game was against such and such, and then that's it. We do want a bit of detail to get it on the show, and we will feature it on here each week. That'll warm a few people up. And just before we go to the ad break, so Stu can go off and refresh his glass and Mitch can go and do whatever he needs to do. I do need you, Stu, to have the screen, I think, all to yourself. Now, how do I do that? How can we do that? Can we get Stu on by himself? Can we get him on? We might be able. Right. I've sussed it. Hold on. Wait. It's this button here. Solo layout. Ta-da!
Christmas tree.
Christmas tree. Happy Christmas, Stu.
Christmas for 4 days now.
Fantastic, great stuff. I know it's much sought after on this platform. Yeah. People keep asking us to tree up. Well, there it is. 4th of September. When did it go up?
On the 1st.
Yep. Absolutely brilliant. All right, go and do what you got to do, chaps. It's time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com or telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces Handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from their website, mrvickys.co.uk, or by telephoning 01768 210 102. A big thanks also to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. They're an agile and dedicated workwear provider. Welcome back as well to United Travel. They are a UK coaches firm and they are based in the Northeast. They've got 2024 tours and you can contact them on 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Email info@unitedgrouptravel.com and they've got a website which is unitedgrouptravel.com. There's no strangers on their tours, just people you haven't met yet. Big thanks to them for their sponsorship. Big thanks as well to Media Arts, and they supply all the video technology. If you want to become a member and get a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf, then get your smartphone and put it over this QR code. It will take you straight to the membership pack. It's a £25 one-off fee. You can also go to NUFC Matters website and search membership pack to book today. If you want to help the channel, then subscribe to it by hitting the subscribe button. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video and click share to share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Don't forget, we help the food bank on this channel. If you want to do so virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. The Alan Shearer raffle is back on. 150 tickets, £1 a ticket. Win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball. Enter today at nufcmatters.com.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors.
If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Okay, lads, welcome back. Mark Taylor is asking any idea on the fee for the Adidas deal. Rumours saying that it could be as much as 40 million. And Tim Cairns was asking the same question. Have you got any idea what the Adidas sponsorship value? Any rumours coming out of the Middle East as to what the actual cost is, the price?
I've seen those numbers on Twitter or X or whatever it is you call it now, and I don't know what the source of the numbers is. The only definitive source has been the commentary on the Amazon documentary where it said hundreds of millions over a period of time. So are these just numbers plucked out the air? There could be. Have they been subtly leaked from somewhere? Don't know. If it is 40 million, it's a huge step up from the Castore numbers. And I'd be very interested to see what Adidas are getting out of that sponsorship. Is it more than just kit? They seem very invested in coming back to Newcastle and talking about Newcastle as a city and being in part of the city, not just club kit suppliers. So whether there's some stadium sponsorship or training grounds or something on top of the kit deal, that wouldn't surprise us at all. But I've heard no precise numbers.
Any idea on the length of the contract?
No.
No news at all. Then, Stu, any idea from your point of view?
I heard it was 5 years, but I'm ready to be proven wrong with that. But the thing with Adidas, it comes is when Alan Shearer was narration, was he? And he said hundreds of millions. So even if you take it to the lowest hundreds, as in plural, that's 200 million on a 5-year contract, makes it 40 million a year. So if you add that with Keller, I think what we as fans should be, first of all, thanking our lucky stars, but thank you to them for believing in us, for believing in our potential, believing in our future. And as Mitch just alluded there, there's more to come. There's stadiums that can get sponsored, there's stands that can get sponsored, there's training grounds, centre of excellence. There's so much more money that can be generated. And I think sometimes we have to stop and think. This season, we've got PSG, Dortmund, AC Milan, proper European giants. You know, probably coming to our ground for a game, not for friendlies, for Champions League games. And this is why people want to invest in us, because they believe in the project. So the Stockholm syndrome that is often referenced, they don't believe that. They can see Newcastle only going in one direction, and we need to be more, not grateful, but appreciative, I suppose, that we are a club on the up. And I think just about, with the exception of possibly Man City, maybe there's a couple of others, but I'd say at least 15 other teams in our league would willingly swap places with us over the next 5 years. Man City didn't win nothing for 4 years, and that was without the restrictions of financial fair play. We're doing as much as we can, but if it's 40 million, great, because that gives us 160 million over 4 years, so we can buy lots of players. Same with the seller money and everything else. But again, what we have to remember is the financial fair play is on a 3-year cycle. And because there was nothing coming in at the start and we had to spend big in the first few windows, that's where the accountancy figures are making a stopgap. So for sure, there will be more sponsorships coming in. But the Adidas one, by all accounts, I don't think the club would allow that, because I'm sure the proof watched the videos before they went out, the documentary. So they would have known what figures were being alluded to. So for me, the 200 million over a minimum of 5 years, 40 million a year makes perfect sense. And hopefully there's add-ons as well.
Mark Byers says the music for my first game is worse than the day I met music. He says, I've just noted the Ben as I automatically started headbanging. Yeah, mate.
We do put it on because it mutes on here, so I didn't hear it.
It's a bit more punky than the day I met.
It is, yeah, definitely. Okay, the documentary, Johnny H says, we've alluded to it a little bit tonight already, but Johnny says, it's all been shown now, guys. What do you think of the documentary? I'm not sure what it was all about, really. I haven't watched episode 4, but I've already given my opinion on episodes 1, 2, and 3. Fairly fairly non-eventful. I wish there'd been more with the players and Eddie Howe. I think the supporters that were selected, you know, one or two of them I knew, one or two I didn't know. I didn't think there was enough time with the supporters. You know, the standard, well, go to the match and I'm a bit nervous kind of crack, where I would like to have known, you know, a little bit more about the supporters and, you know, what the club meant to them, and, you know, why they started supporting the club. When did they, you know, I know I do documentaries myself, but I just think we've been down that road before with so many. So I don't think we've got the best out of the supporters. And I think it was focused, as we knew it was, heavily on Amanda, Meerdad in particular, and the owners. You know, I've done enough interviews with Ben Jacobs and obviously having Ian Murter on the show last week to know that, you know, journalists would like a little bit more from the Saudi side of things, you know, to hear a bit more. Well, we heard from, you know, our president, our chairman, sorry, and, you know, we heard from him. So, you know, but it was, I get why people aren't overly impressed with it. I don't know what episode 4 is going to bring. I know that a lot of people have said it's about money. Yeah, a bit too much of Darren Eales on it for me, and you know, not enough of Dan Ashworth. I'd like to have heard a bit more from Dan Ashworth. I think I can only really remember Dan Ashworth popping up at you know, the training ground and shaking people's hands. Didn't really hear a great deal from him. So I don't know. Look, you know, things are edited. Maybe there was a lot more on film of these people, and it wasn't put across. Where did it rate alongside, you know, some of the ones that I've seen on Arsenal or Sunderland? You know, I think they were better. I personally enjoyed the Arsenal one. I thought it was excellent. I enjoyed the Mourinho meltdown on the Spurs one, and the Mackham one. Well, I know, you know, there's rivalry between us, but I felt that was a lot more honest. I think this one was a bit more controlled by the club, and that's their choice. That's what they want to do. But I don't think it'll have the masses tuning in if they decide to do another series. That would be my honest approval, unless it was slightly different. So, you know, that's my view. I don't know whether you've had time to watch the whole lot, Mitch, or not, but
Yeah.
I just thought it was like a glorified advertising document for Newcastle United for any potential sponsors out there.
If there's a second series, they'll have to go in a different direction with it.
Yeah.
This for me was a global PR exercise, all part of getting people used to Saudi ownership of Newcastle United in the Premier League. And the focus on was about turning the business around. It was a business discussion rather than a football discussion, if you ask me. Which is fine. But I do think it was edited and cut in such a way that it did take away. They paid great lip service to, you know, we bought this club because of the passion of the fans and how different it is. They didn't really show how different we are. And they didn't get to the meat of it for me. It was more a business-related exercise to show the world the intention of buying Newcastle United, which is, you know what, this is where they can't win, because people say we want to hear from you, and they put something together like that, and then immediately people will dive in and say, oh, well, this is all part of sports washing. And so they cannot win. They can't win in many ways. And I think this was part of people getting used to the whole concept of the ownership model that we have. While once again, it feels like sometimes we're the only ones that are asked to have any sort of questions about Saudi ownership, and anybody involved in Formula One, golf, and many other sports, boxing, wrestling, you name it, seem to walk away scot-free once all the hoo-ha dies down. But we're the ones that everybody keeps coming back to be the moral arbiters. And I think if you're looking for any kind of moral arbiters of any kind, I would suggest looking in football is probably the last bloody place you should look for them. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, I think our there wasn't as much of that in-depth plain side stuff that you get from some of the other documentaries we've seen, and a lot more about the business side of things, which I guess gets a certain message across, and it's done its job.
Yeah, agree, Steve. I enjoyed the Spurs and Leeds documentaries. Those included more multi-level interactions between the manager, the players, and the directors, including awkward and contentious issues. Yeah, Benny, that was my thoughts. David McLeod says it came across like a prospectus video looking for investment. And George says our chairman gets interviewed by American TV, but the British press are liberal lefties, only interested in human rights rather than the full story. So lots of opinions coming in. What's your thoughts, Stu? Have you had time to watch any of it or all of it, or?
Managed to watch them all. I think, first of all, we should be grateful that we've had some behind-the-scenes footage that we've never had. So for that was the upside of it. I wholeheartedly agree with Mitch. To me, it was a PR exercise. It seemed to be justification of, aren't we doing a fantastic job? Look how hard we're working. Bit of self-gratification in there, a bit of lip service. And I think, to me, it was condensed, only 4 episodes. And that's why the content that we as fans are looking for, I would believe, would be more in the dressing room, on the training ground, chats between player and manager and stuff like that. That's what the average fan on the street would want to see. And we didn't get much of that because it was not more or heavily focused, but to me there was too much behind the scenes of saying, look, this is my role, this is what I do. And I agree with the comment that came on. It was like a prospectus for saying, "Oh, fantastic, that's I've been brought from this place to this place, and I'm going to change this round." And let's not kid ourselves. They can all say they love Newcastle United. They're all in it for the money, and we have to be honest with that. The potential of Newcastle, the fact that it's been so neglected for so long. The last person to see the potential was John Hall, and he was in it for the money. So anyone who tries to kid themselves differently and say, I bought Newcastle for the passion, I put all my money in, I convinced these people for the passion, that's not the case. This is my opinion, by the way. But where I think it let us down in a way was, we've seen the Sunderland one, we've seen the Tottenham one, we've seen the Arsenal one, and they all had sad endings if you're a supporter of that team. They didn't qualify for the league, they didn't get promoted, Champions League, they didn't get promoted, or whichever document it was. We had, as Mitch's uncle in Middlesbrough often used to get when George went to visit him, from those who recall the retro show days, we had a happy ending. And there wasn't paid enough on that. The way it was unexpected, we were looking, or what the expectation of the club, of the team was, mid-table stability, and with an eye on maybe sneaking into European place. After 2 months, from October last season, we were in the Champions League spots, or thereabouts, for the rest of the season. We must have achieved it. I think more could have been done on that. And then a bit more once the final whistle had went, bit more feedback from the players, and who do you want next season? What's your plans? Same with Eddie Howe. There could have been more of that. We know that he's not a fan of the cameras, and you can understand why. But for me, it was great that it was about our club and not another club. But I think the story could have been told better. Yeah,
I think we're all agreed then. 100%. It's could do better if it was a school report. Okay, let's get back to football, lads. Tom Dixon says, do you think it's time for us to start Wilson ahead of Isak for our next match? He's had 4 games, Mitch. I was talking about him potentially being up there for the Golden Boot. Got off to a great start again against Villa, like most of the team did. But then, tough games, and I guess he's been starved a little bit of service. It was no wonder that he snatched at that chance against Brighton, you know what I mean? But then
was absolutely starved at the weekend, totally.
He was, and he only had that one opportunity, didn't he? But Wilson's goal was another great finish.
As Eddie says, there's lots of football to be played, and we've got lots of games and lots of opportunities, and we've got 2 strikers who we can drop in and out, as who both can score goals, and I think things will be changed as and when. Let's see who comes back and how everybody responds to the international break and their international fixtures. See what they're like when they come back. But for me, I don't know what Isaac's done wrong to be dropped in many ways. And again, could have been different if he'd taken a chance earlier on. That normally I think he would, but that's football, isn't it? It's whether it goes in off the post or straight out, or if you look at the madness, that was the end of the Sheffield United Everton game at the weekend. All sorts of chaos going on and fine margins. So yeah, I think see what they come back like after their international breaks, and Eddie will run with the hot hand. Okay. We've got a situation that I see with a lot of modern American football teams where they use running backs as a pair, and they don't call them 1 and 2, they call them 1A and 1B. And they may have slightly different qualities and slightly different abilities, but they're seen as a 1-2 punch. They're not seen as a either or. They're not seen as a first choice, second choice. And so I think that's exactly what we're getting out of Isaac and Wilson, is we'll have a potential 1-2 punch that can also play together if needs be. So I think it's you'll ride the hot hand. Okay.
What about you, Stu? Are you keen to see Wilson maybe get a start, or do you think it'll be a stick with Isaac?
I just had a little snicker there. Nothing what Mitch said. It's just when he mentioned the 1A and 1B. It reminds us of the old joke about the Spanish fireman had twins and he called his son Jose and Jose B. So that's why I was laughing. Isaac for me is a player of the utmost quality. He's shown that, and possibly similar to Bruno, he may be a victim of his own success, of his own ability, because he's shown what he's capable of doing. But I know I said at the start in my match assessment of Brighton about Isaac, he didn't get any of the balls. There was no one within 30 yards of him for the majority of the game. Now, he's an exceptional player, but we can't rely on him too much to say, well, look, we've given you the ball. You've only got 3 to beat this time, Alexander. Off you go. He is good when he has to put doubt in the player's mind, the defender's mind. If the defender knows he has to take him on, the defender then has the upper hand. Whereas he thinks, right, you could pass there or he could pass there. And if he's been isolated, he shouldn't be omitted, if that makes sense. There's nothing against Callum Wilson, but I think if you drop Isaac, his confidence will hit the floor. And I think he's the type of player that, as Mitch said, he's done nothing wrong. He hasn't warranted being dropped. People have warranted being rested. And if it was my team, which thankfully for everyone who supports Newcastle United, it's not, what I would do is when the 2 Brazilians come back from their jaunt for their fixture, I would say to them, right, guys, we've got a big game in Milan next week, so you're not playing on Saturday. You've come back on a Thursday night. We've never had that luxury before. We've never had the luxury of resting Miggy, who's travelled to South America, Bruno or Joe Linton, as he is now. They've got back like late Thursday night, sometimes on a Friday morning. We've had to play them on a Saturday. And we've suffered as a team because of that. Now we have, as we've talked about, a strong squad. And that's where we could be saying, right, okay, Sean, you're in. Okay, Elliot, you're in. This is your opportunity. Okay, Barnes, you're playing, or whoever it is that they decide to put in. But it can be explained away so the person who's now being left out doesn't feel they've been dropped. They feel that it's a recycling situation, they've been rested and it's for their benefit. But then put them back in for the AC Milan game. And then you've got a choice the game after, which I believe is Sheffield United. So then you think, right, you played best that game, you get the shirt for that game. And that's, I'm quite certain how I would do it. How Eddie Howe does it is a different matter. So that's just my look at it, Steve.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Tom, yes, we're on till 7:30, mate, 90 minutes this show. Lots of people impressed with even Evan Ferguson. Lots of people commenting that he could be the new Harry Kane. Yeah, look, he scored a spawny hat-trick one at the weekend. That's all he's done. Got to do that on a week-to-week basis to be compared to Harry Kane. Scotty, I mean, everyone asking about this. Do you think Wilson should start in the number 9 role? Isaac play behind in a free role, drifting in left and right? David McLeod saying, and happy birthday from our David. He says, hey guys, do you think Tonali would work as a number 10 with Isaac number 9? can't
But
see any other.
we don't play that way.
We don't know. And this was a message I got from somebody. We do when the show finishes. I know Stu interacts occasionally, like I do on YouTube, but some people do leave comments. And Steve PP7495 on YouTube put, next game, I'm suggesting Tonali acting as a defensive midfielder in front of a back three, separating him from Bruno, who should be an offensive midfielder. An experiment until Botman returns. Shaw would be the main centre back. Isaac, he's going for Dubravka, Lewis, Tonali, Shaw, and Tino. Bruno in the middle. Barnes, Gordon, Murphy, Isaac, and Wilson. And that is major surgery. So I'll go through that again just so you can hear it. Dubravka in goal. Lewis, Tonali, Shaw, and Tino as your back four. Bruno sitting in front. Midfield three of Barnes on the left, Gordon in the middle, Murphy on the right, and Isaac and Wilson up front. He's going for that. An interchange he's put Miley, Trippier, Willock, Joe Linton, Miggy, Byrne, and Pope. I suggest Eddie goes back to his trusted original 22-23 way of playing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. The team is stronger now. Interesting. Lots of people going for big changes. But yeah, I think Tonali seems to be a bit of a conundrum, Mitch. It really does. Where's his best position? Where do you play him? I don't know. It's all about opinions and who's right.
It's all about opinions. I'm amazed glue sniffing's still a thing, though.
He's joking, Steve.
It's that's wildly different to how Eddie would set a team up, and wildly different how those players should be used, in my opinion. We don't need major surgery. We need some physiotherapy. We don't need to cut arms and legs off. We're not that far away from making everything click. We don't play a rigid system of positions. The best example I could compare it to was the great AC Milan team of the 80s, 90s, where they played a four midfield, and it wasn't so much a diamond, but a rotating diamond. That any one player could find himself at any of the positions in the diamond, and he was comfortable there and he knew his role there. And that's what made them so different in the 80s and 90s, was the ability of those players to interchange and do their job no matter where they ended up at which point of the diamond. And I see how Eddie uses our midfield three with the wide strikers is a very much a similar sort of role. If you think when you had Willock and Joe Linton on the left-hand side and they seemed to flit in and out and change positions a lot, and that often exposed weaknesses in fullbacks. On the right-hand side, how much better did Mickey always look when Bruno was right beside him pretty much in Trippier? And again, that was another little interplay where people would just chop and change and play from where they ended up. And that's so to say, we need a 6 or an 8 or a 10. We don't play rigid systems like that. We've got much more fluid system. And I think that's what's made it so different. And I think people have worked some of that out, and we need to work out better ways to express ourselves within that system. And again, I think they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, saying, "Oh well, these two don't work together, and this one disrupted everything, and that one should now be playing effectively centre back, or even though he's a midfielder." I think we need to just calm it all down and let Eddie work his thing. I think we do. The one thing out of that is we do need to go back a little bit of the basics of that what we're doing, because we certainly didn't do some of those at the weekend. But I'm also quite sure that Eddie House and he's seen and noticed that, and he'll have copious notes and things to action upon when he's got his group of players together.
Yeah. Okay. Thoughts, Stu, then on mass changes like that? I mean, it's we're all entitled to an opinion. We've all got our ideas. Some people saying in the chat that, you know, they don't think that Bruno and Tonali can play together. David McLeod says, what happened to having the best midfield in the country? Bruno, Joe Linton, and Tonali seem to have short memories. You know, I thought Bruno was cover. I thought Tonali was cover for Bruno when out, as we never won a game when he was injured. So, you know, the side needs tweaking, that's all. So, Steve, lots of opinions.
Well, we have to, again, take into consideration the level of teams that we've played. And we look at Liverpool, who we outclassed for the majority of the game. They've been one of the two dominant teams in the country for the last 5 years, and we were better than them for at least 2/3 of the game. At least 2/3 of the game, we were better than them. And Man City's a different level to everyone else. We played the same three against Aston Villa, and we've seen what happened there. We won. So it's not as if we've played Sheffield United, Luton, Bournemouth, and we've dropped all these points. We've dropped points we may have dropped anyway, even if everyone was up to speed and fit as they can be. So in a way, it can work out in the blessing. They've been tried against the best. We know what needs to be done. And I just think the team is like golf. I think someone mentioned the word tweaking there, and that's how I was going to explain it. It just needs tweaking. You know, for those of us that play golf, I know some people think it's boring, it's a spoil of a good walk, etc., etc. But it could just be your knees aren't bending correctly, or your shoulders aren't placed right, or your feet aren't pointing right, or you've swung too fast. And all of this combines into a bad golf shot, where it just might need one thing to change, and it becomes great again, back to normal. And that's to me what that's this team. It just needs a little tweak, a little rub of the green, and I think we're going to be fine. In fact, I know we're going to be fine. I see Spenny's mentioned Grealish there. I think maybe that's what we need. Grealish to shout out Miggy again, call him out, and that might fix the right side up front. You know, so there's so many things we could point at and say that needs change, that needs change. You can't make radical changes like that, but you can, but it's how you do it. And remember, it's a long season. We have European games now, and hopefully we go far more in the cups. So there's not that much needs to be changed. We were on the right track. We haven't come off it all of a sudden by signing a quality player like Tonali. And I'll debate till the end of the day that he's a fantastic player, and he's a great addition to our 11. They've just got to get to know the rules, understand the rules. The fact that he's moved to a new country, new language, new friends. In fact, well, not new friends yet. He'd probably have no friends, but he's here with his partner, probably his agent will be in and out. It's difficult. Mitch and I have both travelled to a new country, knowing nobody, apart from, well, Mitch travelled with his family. I travelled to meet one person that I knew, and you can't perform well in your new job until you feel comfortable in it. And I think the best of Tonali's to come. And I really think him and Bruno will and can play together. They've just got to work out. You sit, I stay. You sit, you go, I sit. You go, I sit. And once they get the telepathy becomes stronger with them, becomes stronger with them, we'll all benefit. The two good players for it not to work.
The cup draws took place since the last professionals, Mitch. The League Cup surrounded in controversy with the wrong number. But if you're going to win the cup, you've got to play the best. So Man City at home it is. And then the Champions League, the Fahren nach Dortmund, ja.
Yeah, I mean,
we are going to Dortmund.
We are going to Dortmund, yes.
Well done. So yeah, I mean, a great Champions League draw. Stu's already mentioned the the teams that we've got, and I mean, I personally just wanted to get some of the best teams. I'd love to have had Real Madrid, but to get PSG is just as good for me. And it's a group of death, people were calling it, but it's Group F, and it's a good one. And
there's so many little stories and interplays in there. You know, Tonali going back to face Milan again, Saudi versus Qatar, war flags. They'll see what the Dortmund tifo is all about, and probably give them as good back as they would get. And it's fantastic. It's this is the fun of top class football, is pitching yourself up against the best. And yeah, we've got more than a puncher's chance of getting out of it. I'm telling you now, when we come out with that draw and those 3 teams so being put into their group, they wouldn't have been happy about that. The trip to St James's Park is something that none of them could do with. They'd rather have themselves off to, you know, probably to Copenhagen or somewhere like that, where they've got a little bit of a feel that they've got a bit of an easier time of it, not to come to one of the top clubs in the Premier League and be expected just to turn up and get 3 points, because that's not going to happen. We ain't going to roll over for no one. You want to pitch yourself against the best. You want to see where we're at. I think it's a fantastic early benchmark to see genuinely where we're at. For everyone, owners, manager, players. We have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain by bloodying some noses.
Your thoughts on the Champions League group, and Stu? It's exciting, isn't it?
I think it's amazing. You know, it's been 20 years since we were last in the league, and this is where, if we go back to the start of the show when we were talking about people throwing the toys at the pram saying we're rubbish, does anyone genuinely think it'll be another 20 years before we're back in it? Of course not. So, because it's been so long, did we really want to have like a lower draw and a trip to Belgrade to see Red Star and stuff like that? No, we wanted the best teams as possible with the biggest stadiums, and that's what we've got. And I'm with Mitch. Well, I will be with them in Dortmund as well. That the way I look at it is, the 4th best team in Italy, which I think AC Milan were last year, are they better than the 4th best team in the Premier League? I don't think so. I think we're capable of beating them home and away, or at least taking 4 points off them. I think we're capable of beating Borussia Dortmund at home and getting at least a point away. And I think we can get at least a point of PSG. They're not as good. They've shown that over the years. They've either consistently underperformed, as in where they should be with the money that's been spent on them, or they're not as good as they believe they are. And with our team, with the right mentality and the right belief, I think we've got nothing to be scared of. I honestly think we can win the group. I know that's me being uber positive again, but I can't see why we can't get out of it. And I mean, when I say get out of it, I don't mean into the Europa League or thanks very much for your memories, we'll see you again hopefully within the next decade. I think we can qualify in the last 16. So I think it's a fantastic draw, Steve. I really do.
The Carabao Cup as well, of course. We got to the final last year. I mean, we've got Man City at home, Mitch. If we get past that, I think we'll start dreaming again. People will start booking hotels. Well, but it's a big game, and I mean, Man City, I think, will take that really seriously because they didn't win it last year.
It's a big game.
They've made a habit of it, but it obviously falls in the middle of a busy time for us.
And I think the way the draws work, I think you'll lose another 5 Premier League teams from the competition in that round. And that, for me, opens the cup wide open.
Yeah.
And if you're getting get the right pairing in the next round, before you know it, you're on your way to a semi-final. So I think it's a big game for that reason. Man City, historically have not often shown the Carabao Cup respect in terms of team selection. Like Man United used to against us somehow. I do think they'll show us respect with their team selection. Unfortunately, I don't think there'll be any going easy. But if you're going to win a cup, you've got to beat everybody that's thrown in front of you, whoever they are, whatever round. That's the whole point of the cup. I'm glad that we've been dignified enough not to make an issue out of the ball numbering thing. The Carabao Cup and the people who have organised it have shown over the last few years they're not very good at things like that. I think they did. Didn't they draw Charlton out twice a couple of years ago or something like that? Mm-hmm. And shambles, really. It just shows how little time people have for the competition, unfortunately, whereas we would have chewed our arms off last year to have managed to have turned in the performance against Man United in the cup final that we did at home a few months later. But it's, again, I see opportunities, not threats. I see a team who have an ability to beat any team at St James's Park on the day. And like I say, another 5 Premiership teams get knocked out of that round because of the way the draw's gone. It could open the cup wide open for if we can see Man City off at home. And we're at home. That gives you a better chance.
Yeah, and you are going to Dortmund, lads, aren't you? Mozza's
Yes,
asking
we
if
are.
you're going to any Champions League games. You're all booked up, aren't you?
Yeah.
Aye.
Flights booked, trains are booked, hotels booked.
We're staying in Dusseldorf and then getting the train through to Dortmund on the day. And then the last train back to Dortmund because of the kick-off times worked out quite well. It's only an hour on the train, and German trains tend to be quite efficient and decent. Yeah, should be a laugh.
Then back to Dubai for the Heat's 50th.
Yes.
Good stuff. Dave says, question for Mitch and Stu, where do you think we'll finish this season in the league? I think we'll finish 6th now.
Top 4.
5th.
5th, okay. I've got to be honest. I still think we'll finish in the European slot. I think we need to have a degree of luck with injuries and suspensions and VAR to finish in the top 4. There are some stronger teams. There's some teams that have made a good start. Not Chelsea, I hasten to add, but Tottenham look, especially not having European football, look as if they can continue in the same vein. You know, they might be an outside threat. And Liverpool, if they can keep a hold of Salah, and that will be funny if he goes before Thursday. If they can keep a hold of Salah, I think with the midfield acquisitions that they've made, they'll do okay. Villa will be testing us all the way again, I think, as well. But yeah, I genuinely think we'll qualify for Europe, but it's going to come down to what. Were you going to say something, Stu?
Yeah, just about Man City, the cup draw, and we can bemoan bad luck, etc. But the phrase that was mentioned on the bar before was like a puncher's chance about European Cup. We've got a Champions League. We've got a puncher's chance against Man City, and I guarantee you, when our name got called out, Man City would have been thinking, not us, not us, not us. And that's a testament to how much we've grown over the last few years. That I'm sure Man City, if they could pick a team that they didn't want to play in that round away from home, we would have been very near top of their list. So they've got the same fixtures as us. They've got Champions League, the Premier League, Champions League, League Cup, etc. So maybe we could play that team that guy suggested earlier with the wholesale changes. Maybe that could be the team to play Man City. But we should be relishing these games, knowing that we're going into them with a chance of winning and looking forward to it. And this is the bit I wanted to get off my chest. The squad that we've got, plus the addition, they earned to be where they are. They deserve that. And they've earned our love. And we're all in it together. So we need to be together when things are going well. And we need to be sure to support when things aren't going so well. They do deserve our support and respect. But there'll be many, many more days where we'll be the team when a cup draw gets done. We don't want Newcastle. We don't want Newcastle. We don't want Newcastle. And that's coming. And I honestly think Man City would have preferred. Who else would they have not wanted? Maybe Liverpool away, Arsenal away, and then us. Because they'll rest players, we'll rest players. We have to rest players. They have to rest players. I don't think Holland will play. And if you take that out and De Bruyne is injured, let's just hope they rest forward and we have a bit more mobility in the middle of the park and a bit more belief. We can beat them. We can beat anyone, as Mitch said. We can beat anyone on our day. We just have to make sure that our day happens more regularly now. And thankfully, we've got a better squad to do it with.
Good stuff. Got it off your chest. Great night. Great show. I'm back tomorrow night with the Fans Forum at 6 o'clock. But that's been the professionals. Thanks to Stu. Thanks to Mitch. Thanks to you for watching. Take care, lads.
Good night,
Cheers, everyone.